is a couple of months in at creative powerhouse shop Gut in Miami. Originally from Panama, this copywriter has an incredible career that stemmed from a strong education foundation at the University of Miami. And when I say incredible, I mean it. Lock in, because he's about to blow your mind if you're indeed a fan of advertising. Alex, along with his partner Andy, were responsible for two 2019 Super Bowl ads. And I think they've won around 10 Cannes Lions. I'm not exactly sure. But I want you to recall 2019, before the pandemic, when life was life. The one commercial that kind of stuck out was the Andy Warhol footage. It was, I think, no sound at all. It's Andy Warhol dipping his Whopper in ketchup. The Eat Like Andy campaign. Alex directly helped push and convince Burger King to run that ad. And there's another Super Bowl commercial, but I can't spoil it right now. So keep on listening to learn about that and another home run campaign he talks about, which is just amazing. He's worked at Crispin Porter and Bogusky, David in Miami, and Wyden Kennedy. Talk about a resume. And there's a lot to learn from Alex because he's an all-around great guy. To learn more about Alex and to connect with him and see his recommended resources, head over to Instagram and follow Entering Ad. And now, without further ado, this is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and I am your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Alex Allen, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Podcast. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you so much for having me, Gina. No, this is an awesome opportunity. First time I've ever been in a podcast, so
yeah,
really awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned that to me while we were talking before we started recording, and I'm surprised by that because your resume, your experience, just some of the work you've done, it seems like this industry would draw you in for podcasts. So I'm lucky to have you at first. So it's always nice to get some great talent.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we got a lot to uncover. You got a lot of great experience, like I just said, but currently you are a senior copywriter at Gut in Miami. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
And now people probably of our little audience that we have consistently, I like to talk highly of them. They probably know Gut through Ad Age and Ad Week and some of the awards you guys have been doing and just how great you guys are. But that CEO, I believe, how do you pronounce his name? The guy that we were just talking about.
Yeah, the CCO, the Chief Creative Officer and founder of Gut, is Anselmo Ramos. He was the brains behind David the agency when he found that.
Okay.
And he's been kind of like the mastermind of some of the most iconic campaigns, from Dove, right? Real Beauty sketches.
Okay.
Burger King, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that hints at, that foreshadows what we're going to be talking about, because you are a University of Miami graduate and you've hit some great agencies since then. I mean, we got Crispin Porter and Bogusky. We've got The Community. We've got David, obviously, Wyden Kennedy, and Gut now. So you've hit all these great agencies, and I'm just, a lot of our audience wants to hear, like, how did you, we want to hear how you got to these great agencies, what worked for you, and what lessons can you give to our audience out there to follow a similar path, because those are awesome. And so you must be pretty awesome too.
Thank you. I mean, wow. I don't know if I consider myself awesome. I think I'll always consider myself the luckiest guy ever.
Okay.
I mean, when I get the chance to just like talk about my journey,
mm-hmm.
I'm not the kind of guy who believes in fate or the stars or that kind of stuff, but it's insane how many coincidences happened for like all these things to just kind of like fall in line and just work out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luck. What is it? Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. That old saying. So you've obviously were prepared. So let's bring it back to your college experience at Miami. We have a couple of Miami alum on this podcast in our repertoire. So a great advertising school. Did you go into Miami always kind of knowing you wanted to do advertising, or how did you stumble across this
Yeah,
industry?
that's a good question. I mean, yeah, I never really, like, growing up, I never really thought, oh, I want to do advertising.
Hmm.
I wanted to be like, I don't know, Batman or whatever.
Sure.
I didn't, I never really imagined doing commercials or making them or writing them. It was just kind of like it just happened. By the way, I'm from Panama, like not the town in Florida, like
Sure.
literally the country in Central America, and I've always dreamt of living outside of Panama and like making a life out of like all my family's over there, and I moved away just to pursue this. And it's
Wow.
kind of insane to say that because advertising wasn't my dream to begin with. I love to draw. I love to live in that like creative world of uh, whatever it was. I think I would have wanted to be like I don't know, an animator or a comic book artist or something. But my parents were like, no, 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 you're gonna starve under a table or something like that. You got to do something that's gonna like pay the bills.
Sure. Yeah. Parents do that.
And yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I like they were suggesting maybe you should become kind of like a lawyer, like your mom, your uncles, and your grandmother, or whatever. And like, I wasn't sure, but the thing that I did know was that I needed to do something that I was gonna love. I didn't want to just do a job because it's a job. I
Mhm.
wanted to actually enjoy it. So I took some very generic courses in Panama, and then I think like around after 2 years, I transferred to University of Miami and chose advertising, just like, and it was a stroke of luck, I guess,
Wow.
because I ended up uh, I ended up really, really, really loving it. I'm super passionate about it, and I always tell people that I have the best job in the world. I think I like read a blog right before choosing advertising, and just like I read the story of a guy who was working late in an office. He was eating pizza with his coworkers, and he just said that that was fun. Um, and I was like, that sounds interesting. I'll see
Yeah.
what that is about.
Kind of outside the 9 to 5 desk
Yeah,
accountant job. Yeah.
absolutely. And again, besides that, I didn't really have like my expectations. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I just kind of like stumbled upon this, and I was just so lucky to meet people that were also just equally as passionate and kind of like believed in me as well. Like professors that I still talk to this day. Like we still keep in touch.
Want to give a couple shout outs?
No, I absolutely. Sarai Nunez, she's still a professor there at University of Miami. I still talk to her every now and then.
Good.
So yeah,
Good.
for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like she was the first one to like check out my work, and she was like, you need to put up your work up for like student festivals and try and get awards. And
Yeah.
I wasn't that confident. I was like a tornado of anxiety and insecurities and doubts and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And
Yep.
she was like, "Nah, trust me, you should do it. This piece that you worked on or whatever, this is good. You should try it." And sure enough, it
Hmm.
somehow like worked out. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
um,
I think it's interesting that I want to go back to where you mentioned like your parents were saying maybe like be a lawyer, and maybe steer away from the cartoon aspect of a career. So did it kind of click for you when you first heard about the different positions in advertising, maybe in that entry level class that you took, like this copywriter like route might be for you, or was that kind of clicked right away? Like you might have had like that law influence and that writing experience. Does that, when you learned about copywriting, did you say this is for me?
I wasn't so sure actually. I
Okay.
like had obviously my doubts. But again, like uh, I met people along the way that assured me that I was doing great or that I can improve, and
Mhm.
uh, that just, you know, it showed me how much I can really love this profession. I started out actually as an art director,
Really?
and switched within uh, the university because I was just kind of like I love drawing, but I was honest with myself and I'm like I'm not that fast with the programs,
Okay.
but I still love the creative process, and I think that was a realization for me.
Hmm.
Like it didn't immediately click as you say, but it was a realization that maybe what I didn't love necessarily was like what I actually did, but rather just the creative process of it.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And I know some people then turn to strategy, but you went to copywriting. I mean,
Mhm,
but strategy is obviously in the backbone and always on your mind when you're part of that creative process, I'm sure.
mhm. No, yeah, no, for sure. I think you see a lot of fluidity in
Sure.
in those things, but yeah, always have it in mind. I always have it in mind.
So you must have done pretty well. That you applied for some awards, you said you submitted some stuff. You got pretty good feedback from those awards? Did you win anything
Yeah, I think like
back in the day?
for the I think I did for the Addies,
Okay.
regional Addies,
Was
and
that AAF?
yes,
Okay. Gotcha.
and I got with my team, I got uh, best of show, I believe, regional,
How important is
and
that
then
for like creatives, to get that recognition early on, maybe for your own mental psyche or for to stand out to recruiters? Is that a crucial thing? Then something you recommend is to put your work out there, because a lot of people I know don't even submit stuff, don't even think that they're good enough.
absolutely, I think it's so important. And if you would have asked me when I started out, like as I said, I was like a wreck, tornado of anxiety and doubts. I would have said, nah, it's fine. Awards aren't that important, but they really are. There is value in awards because not only do you kind of force yourself to put work out there that meets a certain standard,
Yep.
so that kind of like helps you also just like raise the bar and
Hmm.
really make sure that you put out amazing work.
Right.
But yeah, naturally, if you win something, you're definitely going to get eyes on recruiters.
Right.
If you're looking for a visa, that also helps like a lot. Um, that just shows that uh, you're not replaceable. That you're
Hmm.
very important.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I like that. I like that. I mean, and also that work that you probably, that I guarantee you the work that you submit for those awards goes directly into your portfolio. And that,
totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah. And I think a good question now, I mean, a lot of people in the creative uh, track have a pretty big decision to make towards their senior year. I don't know. I'm assuming your senior year of undergraduate, whether or not you're going to go to portfolio school. And I've had a lot of people on this podcast, and there's different views and perspectives on portfolio school, but what it comes down to is your own unique experience and where you're at in life and the economy, and there's a lot of variables that come into play. But let's just dive into that decision making process when you were facing portfolio school or going right into the workforce. What was going through your mind, and how did you make your decision not to go to portfolio school?
No, totally. So I think I to this day I still don't think my portfolio is done.
Right.
um, it's a constant work in progress.
Yeah.
And that was very much the same feeling I had when I was looking for my first gig, my first job. I didn't I didn't think that my portfolio was good enough. I always compared myself to what else was out there. Like, who else am
Right.
I competing with? Um, and when I started, I like gave out my I sent out cold emails. I try to contact connections of connections of connections and all that kind of stuff. In my opinion, portfolios, yes, they're important, but it's not the most important thing. And I don't think I ever gotten a job based on my portfolio. Not
Gotcha.
once.
Interesting.
Um, it's always been because someone can talk really well about me, or either they've read about me somewhere, or they've seen my name on something, and they're like, "I want to hire that guy," or whatever. Like, it was never like they found my website and they're like, "This guy's perfect." I've seen some portfolios that are so creative, and
Yeah.
they really show the personality of who that person really is. And you've seen mine with my art director. By the way, shout out Andy Tamayo. Been working with the dude for 6 years.
That's awesome.
um, yeah, the portfolio I have with him is literally, this is the work, this is what we did, this is who we are. There's
Yeah.
nothing, there's no fluff around it.
I like that though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it gets to the
So
point.
yeah, you gotta do that. I like that.
Uh, yeah, for sure. Going back to portfolios, I think there are some people who put amazing work and love in their portfolio, and that's great. But if you ask me, portfolios isn't it's not the most important thing.
It's not like the end all. It's not like what's gonna make the deal happen, in your opinion. It's that word of mouth, really. I mean, but for a lot of people now, they're deciding, like, how do they get that experience where somebody can speak highly of you? How do they break into that first job where they can, or internship where somebody can really vouch for you? That's the tough part for a lot of people.
For sure, for sure. In school, I tried my best always. And this is still true to this day. Someone told me, you'll never be sure that you're the best in the room. Chances are you'll never be the best in the room, but you can always make sure that you're the one who works the hardest. Um,
That's a soundbite right there.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, that was awesome. I like that.
Yeah, uh, and it's true. I mean, when I was in school, even I wasn't the fastest copywriter. There were probably some people who were better wordsmiths than I was.
Mhm.
But man, sometimes I was awake till 2 a.m.
S
working
s
on a script or whatever, to show to the class the next day.
I like that.
Uh,
So that hard work, so you're saying if you don't have maybe that internship experience, maybe those professors can vouch for you if you're working hard in the
Absolutely.
classroom, and then they can those are huge gateway people. They're gatekeepers to the industry.
Yeah, because a lot of the time those professors have worked in the industry. They
Yep.
know people.
Yep.
Um, and in a way, that's how I got my first internship with Crispin Porter and Bogusky.
Yep.
Um, they vouched for me that there was someone who needed a copywriter, and they were like, "There's this opening. Do you want to be this person's art copywriter?" And I was like, "Sure."
Gotcha.
Um, uh, so yeah, I mean, always working hard. There's just no way that nothing good is going to come out of it,
Gotcha.
whether the quality of the work or you've left an amazing impression on someone. That's definitely, there's always something positive that's going to come out of it.
I love that. I love that. So then the decision for portfolio school came down that you already had some of these connections, you already had an internship or what, and you
Mhm.
were good to go. You didn't really necessarily need it.
Yeah, for sure. So when I started at Crispin Porter and Bogusky, I already had like my student portfolio, and I was still like, this is an internship. I don't know if I'm gonna have like a full-time job after this.
Yeah.
Um, do I want to invest in going to a portfolio school?
While you
I
had the internship?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because
You don't
I
know.
was yeah, I graduated from University of Miami, and just seeing also who I was competing with. I was competing for those internship spots. I was competing with people who were in some really awesome portfolio school programs. They come out with some amazing
Oh yeah.
portfolios.
That's what they do for like 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. University of Miami, that program has gone a million times better since I've graduated.
Hmm.
But uh, they weren't like other portfolio school programs where that's the main thing.
No,
Like
no
you
undergrad
know,
really is, which I don't
yeah,
get why, which we can have a whole episode about the undergraduate
absolutely.
advertising. But then I'm sure they feed people in the Miami ad school.
Yeah, that was totally something I was considering. Should I go to Miami Ad School? Should I go to, I don't know, La Escuelita in Argentina? I don't know. Like it was all things that I was considering. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting a freelance. Like they extended me at Crispin Porter and
Nice.
Bogusky,
So the
and
internship went to freelance.
yeah, and I kept freelancing with them for almost a year. And it was like, at this point, I have this experience. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense for me to go back to portfolio school.
Yeah.
So it just
What were you
happened.
what were you working on? You were working on Rider. I mean, are you allowed to talk about the clients you were working on there?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. So over there, we were working with Ryder. So it was like a B2B brand, a trucking company.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
That
driven a couple of Rider trucks.
Really? That's all
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Storage company.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, like they're an amazing company, and yeah, we did a bit of advertising for them. We
Hmm.
did for an app called Let Go as well.
Yep. The
Uh,
selling app, like like kind of like the Facebook Marketplace type app.
Absolutely. This was
Yeah.
before Facebook even had those
Right.
stuff. So
Yep. I remember.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and also Infinity, my
Yeah.
first car brand ever. That was
Nice.
interesting. And yeah, we had a lot of opportunities because Crispin Porter and Bogusky at the time, at least the Miami office, they weren't doing too well, and they were like in a reconstruction mode.
Okay.
So as an intern, I had an amazing opportunity there because we were pitching all the time new business to try and
Mm,
get new clients for them.
interesting. How do you like the
And
pitch process? I mean, that as a kind of like that first job, I'm sure that's a whirlwind to be always like prepping for pitches and stuff like that. If they put you in the room, I don't know what they did, but that's got to be a great experience.
No, yeah, totally. A lot of late nights, a lot of
Mm,
late nights.
yeah.
But that as an intern, that was an amazing experience because, a lot of the times when you're an intern, you get a lot of the small briefs like, oh,
Yep.
do this banner or work on social or, smaller
Absolutely.
projects. But this one was like, we had to show that we could think of entire 360 campaigns, rebrands, like all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So that was a great experience for me as an intern, even if it didn't end up as a permanent, like secure job at the end of the
So
day.
the freelance lasted how long?
It like I want to say like together with the internship, I want to say maybe 10 months,
Okay.
almost
Okay.
a year.
So
Um,
then you had
yeah,
to. so that comes, I mean, so that experience under your belt, you're like, all right, you're pretty good. I'm safe from portfolio school. And
Yeah.
you're like, I got this experience. I don't need to go to portfolio school, which just makes a lot of sense. Crispin, Porter, and Bogusky is a huge agency. I think they were huge. Like, when were they really big? The 2000s, like the early 2000s was when
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were
Like,
like
yeah, they
huge.
are the ones who basically came up with the whole, uh, write your idea in a headline. Like, what would the newspaper say about your idea? Like, they really were the last ones to really.
Alex Alex Bogusky, is that the name?
Yes, Alex Bogusky. Yeah.
He was like the first rock star creative. He kind of back in the 2000s, and still today he's still a huge name, but like he was like the first like celebrity like rock star creative. And now your boss now would say he's kind of taken on that role as well.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's so many. I think there's so many. I don't know what to call them. Yeah, rock stars. Let's call them rock
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah, because they are.
Yeah.
They are.
And now they're so accessible too. Like you can
Yes.
literally just follow them on Instagram, and they're
Oh yeah.
posting stuff
And
and amazing.
And sometimes
Yeah,
they get back to you if you reach out to them. It's not that
yeah,
hard. If you're a student listening, you can reach out to, they're not untouchable.
absolutely.
They're busy, but that doesn't mean they won't get back to you. I mean, it might take them a month, but some of them will get back to you. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I got some big guests coming up in the future of the podcast that I'm excited about
Oh,
as
that's
well.
awesome. Can I know?
No, 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 not the, I can
Ah,
tell you after, but
okay,
you can't
okay.
tell the audience. But I mean, so that's right. Let's get back on track here. Um, so Crispin, you had that under your belt. So you said, okay, I'm good from portfolio school. That extension lasted about 10 months from internship. You converted to freelance. You're doing
Mhm.
copy for Ryder, Infinity, American Airlines, which I think you didn't mention, but I have written down. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Just for a little bit, yeah.
So
American
big,
Airlines.
big time clients. Like you got a car client, you got a airline client, but at the end of that tenure or the 10-month, um, you 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 landed at a new agency, right? The Community, you said?
Yeah, so what happened with Crispin actually was one of the toughest things that ever happened in my career was that they let me go. That the agency wasn't doing very well
Okay,
financially, and they were just like, we can't keep extending you like month to month.
sure.
And when they let me go, it was the worst news like ever.
Well, did you see
I,
it coming, or was it a complete shock to you?
No, I eventually did. Like I saw it coming, just because uh, the agency wasn't doing too well in the pitch process, and we weren't
Mhm.
able to, like, keep clients and stuff like that. So uh, yeah, it was just something that
Yeah,
happened, and it was so tough because obviously I blame myself. Uh, I felt like I failed, and I had to go back to Panama, back to
really?
my hometown, and because I wasn't like financially stable either. I was like
Right,
still starting off. I
right. You need
wasn't
to
gonna
work.
like Yeah, I wasn't gonna live alone. Like my entire family's back at home.
Mhm.
Without, like, uh,
Yeah.
a job to help me out. And I remember talking to Sarai Nunez, my professor. She was like, "Dude, chill out. This is nothing. This is a blip in your career."
Yeah.
Like, and I thought it was the worst thing in the world, and I'm laughing about it right now, like, because it's just, it's it ended up, like, just making me stronger. So I went back to Panama for like a month or two,
Oh, that's not
and
long at
then
all.
yeah, and then like an intern who I met at Crispin Porter and Bogusky. His name is Anita Mayo, who is my current art director. He reached out to me later and he was like, "Hey, I got a gig at the Community. I need a copywriter. Do you want to be my copywriter?"
That's awesome.
And I think he called me like on a Tuesday, and he was
Wow.
like, "Can you be in Miami by Thursday?" I was like, "Yes." And uh, it was just one of those things where the stars kind of like aligned. And again, I don't believe in fate or stars or anything, but it was just like, it was a Tuesday. He called me. I didn't have a place. I obviously needed a place to stay. So some friends from college were like, we're studying abroad in Argentina right now. Our house is like free. So you can like literally go into our house and stay there
Wow.
and you're good. And it was just like, all those things kind of like aligned. I didn't have to worry about housing. I could
Wow.
literally just fly to Miami the next day,
That's
and
crazy.
that was it.
You just started working?
Yeah, and I started working like that week.
Wow.
um,
But okay, but there's a reason why it probably worked out. Like if we break it down, you probably worked hard. You probably helped out this guy or created a good connection with what was his name?
Andy. So Andy,
Oh, this is your guy right now. This is like
yeah,
your this is your
yeah,
this is your homie.
he's currently my art director. Like we've been working together for like 6 years at this point.
Wow.
And he when we met at Crispin, we weren't partners.
Okay.
We connected over like the garbage TV that we like to watch, and
Okay.
like we like to go to the same restaurant to to eat
Mhm.
lunch, and we had the same outlook. Like we like the same companies. We're like, one day we want to work at White and Kennedy, and we did. Eventually, we
Yes,
did.
you did. Yes, you did.
Like we want to do all those things, and you know, we saw eye to eye on several things.
Sure.
And I guess eventually he thought of me when he needed a copywriter, and he was like,
How does this work? I obviously I haven't really started in the industry. I've only talked to amazing people, but so you get this art director and copywriter package duo, like, and then you're just like friends forever and you work together and you're like wherever you go, he goes, and like you guys are like always hired together. Is that kind of accurate, or am I just like
yeah, that's
oversimplifying
pretty
it?
accurate, at least in our case. I mean, I've known other creatives who, you know, they jump alone,
Okay.
and then they are paired up there at that new agency with
Yeah.
a new partner.
But when it really clicks and you find somebody that you're good with and it's
For
proven,
sure, for
then
sure.
they'll be
With
like, okay, we need both of
Yeah,
you.
I've jumped so many agencies with him ever since.
That's crazy.
And like we go to interviews together. We're in the same room with the people that are interviewing us. We
No
talk
way.
money. We talk all those things.
That's crazy. You do
Yeah,
double interviews together?
yeah. Yeah, and we plan it out before our interviews.
Oh
We're like,
yeah.
okay, you say this, I say this. No, you got to say this. Like, but you got to say it this way. Like,
Yeah.
we always plan it
You
out,
coach each
obviously.
other and all that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, I mean, it clicked. That's not to say that we don't disagree. Sometimes,
Oh yeah.
we don't see eye to eye on certain ideas. But that's fine. That's what makes an idea, pushes an idea to be better
Oh
at the end of
yeah.
the day.
And I'm sure you guys have systems and you guys know each other very well at this point.
Yeah.
You got it all
Yeah.
figured out, or you're figuring it out still. But so you guys have jumped around, right? And this is a huge part of this interview that we're having now is to capitalize on the success of your guys' partnership, right? I would love
Yes.
to
Yeah.
talk about like, so you went to David with him after the community. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and
So
I'm sure you've done great work at the community and all that, but I want to highlight some of those. What are some of those like big hits that you guys have made together? What are you really proud of the work that you two have done?
no, yeah, for sure. I mean, like at David. So when we were at the community, we were doing Hispanic, mostly Hispanic market stuff,
Sure.
uh, and
And you guys were kind of trying to like figure out like the how you guys were working together early on. You're testing the waters here and there. You're getting used to each other.
no, yeah, for sure. And I think it clicked immediately in the sense that, like, you know, you hear stories of other creatives don't get along with their partner or whatever, or like
Mhm.
you know,
Naturally.
and yeah, and that happens.
Sure.
But with us, it was just very natural. Like, and we make each other better. We're so different in so many ways. We're similar in so many ways as well. But I think it's those differences that really make us. work really well.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, when we were at the community, we worked on some stuff. But funny thing, like before we jumped into it, and I hope you don't mind if I talk about how I jumped from the community,
Oh,
like
bring
Andy
it.
and I, yeah.
Bring it.
So Andy and I, when we were at the community, we were working with this account person who was the wife of one of the CDs at David.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, and we became like really good friends. And one day we just kind of like met we met her husband, and yeah, we just hit it off. And she was like, oh, you know, like you should hire this guy, like these guys. These guys are doing really well over here, blah blah blah.
So she wanted to help you out, and
Yeah, absolutely. Because we talked about like all the stuff, the dreams that we had of like
okay.
winning
So she
awards and
cared
all
about
that.
you, heard
Yeah,
you, and helped you that next step, which is a really
yeah,
big step.
yeah. No, absolutely. And I remember perfectly when we met the guy for the first time. It was like a Halloween party at the community,
Hmm.
and Andy and I uh, dressed up as Bran and Hodor from Game of Thrones.
Okay. Yep.
And we ended up winning first place.
There you
and
go.
and we obviously weren't expecting that at all, but that got this guy's attention. And the thing was that he was there to pick up his wife. um like it was like his birthday is on Halloween.
Oh,
So it just happened to happen.
click
Like it's
together.
again one of those coincidences that it was
Mhm.
just like he was there. And that's when we met. And this account person, she helped us out a lot. Like, she was like, hey, these guys have huge dreams, they're super hungry to do amazing work at David. You guys are doing amazing work.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth, interviewing with them.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
and did it happen?
no, yeah, absolutely. And actually, I was the one who was like not so sure. I was like, I want to stay, I want to keep like, working here at the community. Like, and then Andy was like, no, man, we got to do it. Like, we're going to be like at David, the agency, we can do such amazing work.
Mhm.
And he sent our portfolio like by himself. He was just like,
Oh,
hey, here's,
yeah.
and I was just like, all right, let's see what they
Yeah.
say. And they called us up, and in a few months, we were like, okay, we're there. And we made the jump. And I think we did some of the most amazing work there. So yeah, I don't know if you want to like go into the work from there or.
Yeah, I mean, so they obviously, so this guy sent the account guy sent your portfolio over. They interviewed you guys. You were a good fit. That's probably a huge moment in your career, jumping to one of those dream agencies of yours.
Absolutely. It was so helpful, to be honest. Like, and it's funny to say that because at first I was just kind of like skeptical as well. Like
Hmm.
I was like, I don't know. And then Andy was the one who pushed me like, no, we got to do it.
That's
We got to do it.
that's awesome. That's huge
Um,
having somebody like that so close that and on your team like that to push you. I mean, how did you go from being a little bit skeptical or hesitant or maybe uh, intimidated to creating and being a part of the team that created two Super Bowl commercials? Like, how do you go from that version of Alex to the Super Bowl winning Alex?
oh
Uh,
man. So I mean, obviously huge respect to the community and all the opportunities I got there. And
mhm.
I still have friends there. So it's
Yes.
a huge respect for them and everything. But like the two agencies, between the differences between David and the community are pretty big. Like David, the agency for one, was a very small and nimble agency that was, they would do kind of like the Crispin Porter stuff of the 2000s. Like, hey, let's do work that'll get headlines. in the
And
news,
they're still crushing it.
yeah, no, I mean, like they've come out with some amazing stuff. Even like when we left, they're still doing amazing stuff.
Mhm.
Like
Did they do the new monogram logo for Burger King?
no, that was JKR. So that's a design.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Never mind then.
design specific. But yeah, I mean, they still work with Burger King. But going back to like
Opportunities.
yeah, like at David, we had the opportunity to work with amazing brands like Burger King.
Mhm.
And by the way, Burger King is an anomaly. It's like a rainbow unicorn, like because they are an amazing client.
What's
You
the
have
CMO's name? Machado?
Fernando Machado, yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
mean, he's a revolutionary CMO.
yeah. So you have clients like those who really push the envelope with ideas, and then
And they
you
probably
also
just
have
feed amazing briefs that they're just like no other, I'm sure.
yeah, for sure. But actually, a lot of the time, most of the work is proactive. Um,
Okay.
and I can get into that a little bit much later. But yeah, I mean, you like basically we got into David, and they were like, you're responsible for the work that you put out. Every now and then, pitch us something proactive. Like that, the best briefs are the ones that you come up with on your own, and like you come
Wow.
up with your own ideas, and uh, we'll see your idea, and we'll present it to the client, and we'll make it. That's it.
Proactive brief. I've never even heard of that. I like
Yeah,
that.
no, so what David did a lot was like always on briefs, always on briefs. So with Burger King, for example, it's flame grilling and Whopper
Mhm.
love, and like how do you show those things in interesting ways? Same thing with the other brands that 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 I that Andy and I worked with at Budweiser, uh, like and Coca-Cola and so on and
Yeah.
so.
Let's name them. Name some campaigns. I think the one that I am just really impressed by and was like I'm a little even like starstruck is when I figured that you were a part of the Eat Like Andy Warhol Super Bowl commercial campaign, which was my favorite by far. That was that 2018, 2019 Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, 2019 Patriots beat the Rams, Brady. Um, I mean, I don't
I don't
who's
know
the
any of that, by the way. I'm horrible with
That's
American
okay. That's
football.
okay.
You can ask me anything about soccer, and
Yeah,
like
then I
I
won't know
love
anything about
it.
that.
Yeah.
But I mean that commercial. So what was your role with that? And you've also done another Super Bowl ad I want to talk about. So tell us about like was it competitive to get that like to pitch for that? Did they select you for this specific assignment? How does that
No,
work?
yeah, for sure. So that idea, Eat Like Andy, the Andy Warhol idea, was an idea that was at the agency even before I was there. Before Andy and I were there, that was an idea that was already pitched to Burger King, but it took I think 2 years to make because there were still a lot of things like there were still a lot of things that needed to happen. Um, it just so happened that Andy and I, along with an amazing team there, uh, we we were the ones who managed to convince the client to make this a Super Bowl ad,
Wow.
and that a huge shout out to the strategy behind it as well, like because that's what convinced even beyond Fernando Machado. We're talking about the CEO of Burger King, of RBI, the
Yeah.
holding company,
Yeah.
all of them to shell out millions and millions of dollars just to put a video of when Andy Warhol eating a Whopper in the Super
I
Bowl.
I just can't believe that. So you and your team were able to convince this was an idea in the back burner for a while, kind of big picture.
Mhm.
Like we got to do this sometime. We have this. We have an idea that we want to apply sometime. And you said, "Hey, let's do this." You and your team. You said we're doing it for this Super Bowl. We got all hands on deck. We got to launch this bad boy.
Absolutely. And I think, again, Andy and I weren't the ones who came up with the idea. We just managed to sell it through. And
which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing opportunity. I don't know. I sorry. Just what would you want me to talk about, like the Andy Warhol campaign? Like,
no, I mean, I just think that insight right there is so important for us to understand, is that you were able to push it and convince them, and I'm sure that was a tough process. But what really convinced them, would you say, to do that ad and spend millions and millions of dollars? What was like your pitch to them? Like, this is why we need to do it.
Okay, got it. So, man, I'm trying to think of like how to like say this so it's easy to stitch together in the editing process. Maybe a little bit easier for you. Yeah, how did we convince Burger King to do Andy Warhol for the Super Bowl? So that was a tough one. And trust me, it took months and months and months. We did, I think, like 70 decks to try and convince them. It went through so many rounds. I think one of the most important things was trying to tell them, like, hey, look at the PR you're going to make. Just trying to do something like in the Super Bowl. So many brands are trying to be loud. They have expensive CGI commercials with amazing celebrities, expensive celebrities. And we're going to do the complete opposite. So they're going this way. All the other brands are doing this. Burger King should go the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
We're going to go with this silent killer.
Yeah. Just
that is just attention. Yeah. And I think that was like the hook. That was like, it was just like, we're doing something different. I mean, obviously it's such a controversial ad. I still sometimes talk about it with some people and they're like, I hate it. I didn't like it, or blah, blah. And
I've heard that before. I mean, it definitely sparked discussion.
No, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, and I think this is a really good moment to also talk about, like, what does success look like for a brand? And that's going to change depending on the situation.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people are like, okay, but how did that sell Whoppers? Sometimes sales isn't the best way to say how successful a campaign was, you know? Sometimes there are other metrics to check out to see how well you did.
Yeah.
And that was very much the case with Andy Warhol.
And I mean, and with the moldy Whopper they've done, and with when Burger King told customers to go buy from McDonald's. This is not something unusual from Burger King in recent years. Maybe that kickstarted it, but
no, yeah, they've always been a challenger brand where they do the opposite of what any other brand is doing, and then that's how that controversy that gets them the PR.
Gotcha. So I mean, that's just great stuff, and I respect that work so much. I remember talking about it in class. I mean, in class, you talk about the ads of the Super Bowl. It's like you spend a whole class period talking about the Super Bowl ads. I remember.
No, yeah, and it's kind of insane just to hear you say that, just because it's so much work goes behind trying to sell those Super Bowl commercials, and they're just like what 30 seconds, 60 seconds that you see in a Super Bowl ad, and it's like, okay, all right.
Well, I'm telling you right now too. So my buddies that are not advertising guys, they'll remember those. I mean, I have conversations with them and make sure I pick their brain about Super Bowl commercials, and they'll tell me straight up whether they liked it or not, or which ones they remember. I think the most memorable one is probably Puppy Monkey Baby. If you remember that one, the Doritos one.
Yeah.
But they'll be talking about those for years, and I know I will. And another Super Bowl one that you did was the one I loved, and I remember saying this in class, was probably my favorite quick, easy, meaningful, beautifully done Super Bowl commercial, was the Budweiser one. And it was that the same year?
Yeah, that was the same year.
That was
So
the same year.
that was an insane year for the agency, because the agency came out with 3 Super Bowl ads, and I think at the time we're only 46 people. The agency's the office,
Crazy.
only 46 people, and we
Insane.
came out with 3 Super Bowl ads. Annie and I were part of the team that came out with 2 of those 3 Super Bowl ads.
You went back to back. You got like 2 rings, in my opinion. You got 2 Super Bowl rings. And let me explain. The Budweiser one was, I think, what was the headline, or the title of it was "Wind Never Felt Better," and the video is the Clydesdale horses, obviously on a carriage. There's a dog, I think it's a Dalmatian, and it's Bob Dylan's "Blowing in the Wind" song, which is a classic, and it basically carries on to this beautiful pan out of wind turbines and this dog blowing in the wind with the Clydesdales, where it says we're going to be non-renewable, we're sourced by wind power now, Budweiser.
Exactly. No, yeah, and I remember that commercial was, it just came out so easily, in the sense that the minute we were having a lot of trouble with that brief when we were trying to brainstorm for an idea for the Super Bowl. Like, we knew that we needed to somehow talk about the message that Budweiser is working on. It's like all of their breweries are going to work on 100% renewable energy. We knew that was the brief, but we were having so much trouble trying to find what was a way to tell that story. And we I remember I went into the room one day, and I told my ACDs, hey, there's this really dumb idea. I thought it was the dumbest idea. I had it written down in my notebook, but I was like, I'm gonna say it anyway. I was like, what the hell? What do I have to lose?
Yeah.
And I was like, dogs really love the wind. Like, they stick out their head out of the window all the time. And we're talking about wind renewable energy.
Yeah.
So can we somehow use the story of a dog who loves wind as
wow.
And then immediately the room started exploding, and we can do this and we can do that. And then someone's like, and we have to use Bob Dylan's song. That is our, I thought I was going to do some sappy manifesto copywriting kind of thing. And it was like, no, to write one single word of copy. We're going to use this song as our, as our message. And it worked so well. And it ended up being produced. And I really love telling the stories behind those Super Bowl commercials, just because, again, you never, no one really knows how much it takes to produce those. I mean, even Andy Warhol, there was an impromptu trip to Haiti to actually make that thing happen.
Really?
Yes. Do you want to know the story?
Yeah. What? Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of weird. What does that have to do with Andy Warhol? So what happened is, the Andy Warhol footage is from a documentary from way back in the day.
Yep.
And it's from an old documentary called, I think, 66 Scenes of America, by a Danish director, if I'm not wrong. If I'm correct, yeah.
Okay.
66 Scenes of America, and one of them was the Andy Warhol scene of him eating a Whopper. And we needed the original,
footage.
Footage. We needed the original footage. And that was in the possessions of the son of that director, who was at the time living his vacation home in Haiti.
So you had to go get it?
And then they were like, we need it. I think this is like two weeks before the Super Bowl. It's like, we need it right now. We needed to scan it, but the guy can't leave Haiti because he's there for a wedding. So you need to go there right now. And
Wow.
I was like, but I don't know French. So they flew me with an account person who I'm still working with at Gut right now. And I love it. Like, this is the story that we have together. Like, we always tell this story. It's amazing. Yeah. And we were so scared too, because at the time there was like a don't travel here advisory because there were some really dangerous riots at the time, and we're just like, oh my God.
This is like that's something out of like a documentary.
Yeah, we felt like we're like in a James Bond movie. Like, can we even really trust this guy? Like, we don't know who this guy is, whatever. And it turned out to be amazing. I mean, it was an amazing experience. We were in Haiti for a day, and it was just it's just
the opportunities when you go to like a big agency or like a powerful creative agency, like who knows where it will take you, like to Haiti.
No, yeah. Like, for me, I'm still blown away by that. I was like, what?
Yeah. All right. And I want to segue into another great ad that is a huge highlight and a huge favorite of mine too, is the Coca-Cola one. Was this also at David?
Yeah, this was at David. I think it was so that one so that one was something that, like, I think Andy called me at like 10 p.m. on a random Tuesday in the middle of the week. And he was like, man, I think I have an idea. And I was like, yeah, sure. What's up? And he was like, man, I think like we can make a series of print ads that you can hear. And he like sent me an article of like GIFs or GIFs. I don't know where your standing is of how you would pronounce GIFs or GIFs.
I do GIF.
Okay. I go with GIFs too.
Okay. That's right. Everybody listening will call them GIFs from now on.
Okay, awesome. Good, we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he just sent me this article, and I was like, okay, but what's the idea? And I was like, okay, so we got to do print ads for Heinz where you can hear like the when you squeeze the bottle.
Do that one more time. That's good.
I can give you an ABC of these if you want for editing later, but and I was like, no, man, I think we need to do it for Coca-Cola. And he was like, I don't know, because it's really tough to sell work through Coca-Cola and whatever. And I told him like, yeah, but man, I think this idea is more about like how iconic like both Heinz and Coca-Cola are iconic brands, you know.
Yep.
It's just Heinz is the ketchup brand.
Right.
But we just, when we're on the phone, and this is again 10 p.m. on a random like Wednesday or whatever, he just called me to share this proactive idea he had. And I just told him there's so much more room to play with Coca-Cola, because you can do like the opening of the can, the when you open the bottle, like it's so sensorial. Like with Heinz, we were having so much trouble with like, you can only do the
right.
I don't know, like,
you know. And you don't really want to have people kind of think of that noise, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's still awesome for Heinz, but there was so much more room to play with Coca-Cola.
And it's a brand, like you said, that's been around for so long. Everybody knows the sound when you open up a Coke can or bottle and the fizz. I mean, everybody's experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Andy and I were like, okay, let's create a list of like our 5 to 8 favorite sounds of Coca-Cola. We'll do some comps in the morning and show it to our CDs. And then I think around this time it was like, I want to say it was March. Yeah, so it was like it wasn't that long from like Cannes, like at least from the deadlines for Cannes. And we're like,
Okay.
this could win awards and whatever. And
Yeah.
like, uh, we, even though it would have been, an amazing thing, an amazing campaign for Coca-Cola, we're like, we should do this for Cannes. And like, it was insane how our CDs, when they saw it for the first time, they were like approved. And I think to this day, it was the fastest idea we've
Wow.
ever produced, because it was like our CDs saw it, they're like approved. They took they took like low PDF, like low res PDFs of them, and sent them through WhatsApp to the client.
Oh, right away.
And they're like, okay, let's do it. And in 2 weeks, they were already like all around Europe, like in billboards and print ads and all that kind of stuff.
Holy cow, that is crazy.
Yeah, no,
So
and
there's just you two that came up with that?
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously,
Yes.
huge shout out to everyone in the team, like our ACDs at the time, who are currently the creative leads at David Miami, but most importantly, also the CDs at the time, who are now my ECDs at Gut.
Mm-hmm.
Juan and Ricky, they're amazing, and they're the ones who, at the end of the day, helped us
Wow.
push this idea out, and the client for believing us as well. Like, we don't give clients enough credit. I think it's kind of like easy to say, clients don't get it, they're dumb or whatever, but like, clients can be your best friend.
Yeah.
And I don't like when people say like, the clients, whatever. A lot of times they say it because they have their own reasons, and they believed in us in the Coke print ads, and
Yeah.
they also made it happen. Strategy as
What?
well, and
Of
yeah.
course. I mean, that's a home run. It's a home run. You got 3 home runs, and I'm sure there's more that we can talk about. But I mean, super impressed with that work. I want to just kind of like go into the tail end now into how you got to where you're at today,
Mhm.
because you're at Gut now, but you also have been at the before you were at Gut, you were at Wide and Kennedy, which is huge agency nowadays, and probably has been when you were there. How did you end up getting there? What was your stint there looking like from David to Wyden? Was it Wyden in Miami or was it Portland?
Portland. So
Okay.
after like all that amazing work that we did at David, we obviously got awards. We got
Oh
uh,
yeah.
we got 10 Cannes Lions that
Wow.
year. We Andy and I got recognized in a bunch of lists, Forbes, Business Insider. We ended up in Young Guns finalists, all those kinds of things, and you know you get a lot of attention for that.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't remember for which one of the lists it was. I remember a recruiter from White and Kennedy, Portland, reached out to us on a random, like, I want to say, like in September.
Yeah.
Like, and then uh, she didn't offer us anything. She was like, I just want to like meet you guys. And I was like, we talked with her, and I want to say like January, February of the next year, she was like, "Oh, by the way, I have an opening, and I thought of you guys.
Yeah.
Uh, do you want to come to Wyden and
Wow.
Kennedy?" And we're like, "Oh my God, this is the dream." I mean, like Andy and I, when we were interns, this is the stuff that we were talking about, like
Right.
working in the big leagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's the one. That's the one.
yeah, I mean, and we were going to be working on Corona Extra and on Nike,
Of course.
um, and
Huge.
we were just so excited. And yeah, when we started at Wyden, the pandemic started,
Oh
and
shit.
that changed everything for us. Unfortunately, it was a short stint in the sense that we were just there for what, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just an amazing opportunity for it. Even though it was just so short, we learned so much from some of the. It's just I can make a whole episode about just Wyden.
Oh yeah.
They're just really that good, and I'm just saying that based on the shortest 5 months, you know.
Yeah. So you learned a
But
lot in those 5.
no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the way they look at advertising, inspiration, how they go in about that kind of stuff, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was around the same time as the pandemic, so that affected a lot of our plans. We were still in Miami, and we were looking to move to Portland.
So did you ever end up getting out there officially, like moving out
No,
there?
no, no,
Okay.
because of the pandemic,
Yeah, that was right.
yeah, and then with Andy in particular, like he's from Miami, so his family is
Mhm.
from here, and he's already had like a couple of scares in his family, like health scares,
Sure.
and he just felt like, you know, this isn't the best time to go to
Pack up.
Portland. Like
Yeah.
I should stay here in Miami, and
Yeah.
um, you know, this is the guy I've been working with for 6 years. You know,
Right.
we're not just coworkers, we're this friend, like friends and brothers.
Yeah.
And
100%.
uh we I'll be honest with you, we bickered about it and everything. We were like, no, we should go, this is an amazing opportunity, this is our dream, we're, you
Right.
know, we should stay and everything. And um it just so happened again, stars aligned.
Mhm.
Our ex-bosses from David, Juan and Ricky, who I mentioned earlier, who are at the ECDs at Gut, they reached out and they're like, hey, you're no longer at David anymore. There's no non-compete anymore.
Ah,
We can talk to you, and like we can, you know, we can talk if you want to like go to
get some yeah.
go to Gut. And they found out that we never left to Portland, so it was like, oh, you're still here in Miami, so
They're like, "Oh, you guys are in town. Why don't you come on
yeah.
over? I'm like,
Yeah,
come
no,
see what's going on."
absolutely. And it just happened along at the same time as Wyden, you know, was being affected a lot by like the pandemic, and
A lot of people.
they handled it really well, by the way. But you know, we had a lot of doubts just because everything that was going with Andy and all that kind of stuff.
Right, so it wasn't so much Wyden was saying, like, giving you these decisions. It was you guys. You guys were deciding, what was the best thing for
Yeah,
you guys. Obviously, with Andy's situation, this is a tough decision and probably some of the toughest times of the last couple decades in the United States. It's been tough in the
absolutely.
world. So your decision ultimately was, okay, we never left for Portland. We still love Wyden, who doesn't, but it's this opportunity is too good to be to pass up with gut.
Yeah. No, and by the way, they were amazing about it all. Like our CDs over
Yeah,
there, HR, the recruiter who reached out for
mhm,
they reached out to us for the first time. They were amazing. They even like offered us to work there remotely,
gotcha.
indefinitely.
Yep.
But it was also, you know, just tough because of the hour difference. Like
Yeah,
that would have been really tough to also manage, and we were kind of struggling a bit with that as well.
sure.
Being in Miami and they're in Portland, and you know, although it was just all those factors, and at the end of the day, they were super understanding. So super grateful for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how we ended up being in the gut. I mean, it was a little bittersweet, but but at the same time, so happy because I ended up working with some of the people that I've already worked with. I was already
Yeah.
familiar with them as
That's
well. And
yeah. It's interesting how it seems like some of those bosses, the people you've known carry on, they want you back and you keep talking, you stay in connection with these people. That seems to be an underlying theme of this conversation.
no, yeah, absolutely. It's an amazingly tight knit group, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think I keep thinking back to when you said back in when you were in Miami undergrad that you were not afraid to work hard. You were putting in those long hours, and you would stay up till 2 a.m. for the pitch or for a class project at this point. And that work ethic, you say you get lucky, you're saying the stars aligned, but I would like to think, and I think you think this as well, that that hard work and that work ethic that you've practiced for so long and your passion probably is what led you to these great opportunities. Obviously, luck comes to play, but you worked hard. You
No,
earned
yeah,
these things, and that's awesome to hear that it pays off and comes to fruition in your case.
no, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know how else to put it without sounding super cliche, but I mean, it's again, I'll say it again. You'll never truly, you'll never be the best one in the room. You'll never be sure of that. But the one thing that you can be sure of is being the one who works the hardest.
Yeah.
And yeah,
How long have you been at Gut now?
honestly, it hasn't even been that long. I want to say 4 months.
Okay. And you're loving it there? You and Andy are crushing it?
Yes, no, absolutely. So we're really looking forward to the kind of work that we're doing with them.
Is it remote still?
Huh?
Are you working remote?
Yeah, we're still working remotely.
But it's not too far, the office usually.
Yeah, so Gut right now is with they've been using WeWork.
Okay.
But they've been looking for a more permanent kind of office situation after the pandemic.
Okay. How old are they? How old is this?
Honestly, not that like so Anselmo, who founded David, he eventually founded his own indie company, Gut, and it's 2 years old. It's 2 years old. It's not that
cool.
It hasn't been that long.
Gotcha. And good. Now I want to give you the mic now. I mean, there's a lot of deep rooted messages in your story, which I love that we talked about. But is there any quick things that you've learned and you've kind of seen over your years and your partnership and all the great agencies you've been at? Any some just some hard fact pieces of advice from your career that you can tell our listeners out there? We know the working hard aspect, but anything else that's been on your mind that you want to talk about in addition that we might have glossed over?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I want to say, don't be a dick. I think that's always the first one.
Yep. Ryan Breaker said that from Ad Age.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just advertising is such a small world. It's such a small world. It's insane to see, even at Gut right now. Like, I'm working with some people that I used to work with at Crispin, Porter, and Bogusky.
Yes.
I haven't seen in I haven't seen in years. And I'm working with them again.
Yep.
And it's kind of insane to be working with those people again. And you never know. Who knows who? Chances are this person knows this other amazing person you want to meet.
Right.
It's such a small world. So yes, never be a dick.
Yeah, it is small.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I know, I was just agreeing with you. Keep going.
Now, that being said, never be afraid to disagree with people. If you ever run into a disagreement or a fight or whatever it is, hey, that happens. Sometimes that happens. When you're in the same room when passionate people are in the same room, that's bound to happen. Chances are that happened because you stood up for something, and that should count. That should count for something. So that's I would say that's the second thing, and third thing I would say be an ad nerd. I want to say be an ad nerd, and I think you can find an amazing essay written by Anselmo, the CCO, about this as well. and maybe this is cheating because we're talking about like also being passionate and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think being an ad nerd it's so easy to be cynical about the advertising industry. And I think a lot of people are like, not just junior people. I think a lot of the people at the top as well are like, they're so jaded with advertising as an industry, and they think the worst of it, or for several reasons. And that's not to say that there are no like truths to it, but I think there's so many amazing things about advertising that make it really just the best job in the world. Like, we aren't just making TV commercials. Yeah, sure, we're selling a chicken sandwich, but you also have the opportunity to talk about some amazing stuff that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
This is the playroom where you can combine some of the stuff that you really like outside of your job and like put that into ideas. So yeah, I mean, that's another thing that I can go on a whole episode just talking about that. But I rather just, go read Anselmo Ramos's essay on being an ad nerd.
We'll link that to the account, and people will see some of your recommended resources too. I'll have you collect a list. And for our listeners, can they reach out to you? Are you too busy, or do you not care about people? Just kidding. You good? How can they reach out to you?
I think just a LinkedIn message is
cool.
Always welcome. I'm probably not going to answer immediately, but sure. I'll try. And also, I'm on Instagram. I know I'm not, my handle isn't the most, what do you call it? The most intuitive name ever. Andy gave me that name. Yeah, I didn't have Instagram at the time.
Okay. You'll have to go to entering ad on Instagram to see what his name is. We'll tease that a little bit.
It's Starving Writer. It's starving.writer_. Because I'm pretty skinny, and yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. Then we'll have people reach out to you, and we will wrap it up there. That's it. And I appreciate you coming on. You have an amazing story. You gave great advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reaching out, and an amazing opportunity to talk about all this.
Yeah. Well, have a good one. We'll be in touch.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you all for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's guest. Make sure you go and connect with them on LinkedIn. Tell them that Breaking and Entering sent you. Now, thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director, as well as the student team from the Midnight Oil Agency at the University of Illinois. Can't do it without you all. Thank you very much. We will see you all next week with another amazing guest.